Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule of the Galaxy fans. Welcome to chapter 270 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast. And if you're seeing anything different on Twitter or YouTube right now, that's because DDoc didn't help me get the background in. We
Oh,
still are the same smiling faces, but I don't know where our usual logos are. We'll fix that in post, though. So we'll do that. But again, it is Joe in the pilot seat of chapter 270 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast. And we've got some of our regular co-hosts here. One of our regular guys is out actually at Disneyland in LA right now. So D-Doc will not be joining us, but we'll have Brent, Alfie, and we have some really great new guests that we're really excited to talk to. Star Wars authors, Kelly Knox and Clayton Sandell. But real quick for everybody, I'm sure we've got plenty of new followers and listeners just because we've got these great guests with us. You can follow us pretty much anywhere at Rule of the Galaxy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Check out our YouTube, like it, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We're on pretty much every podcast platform as well. And if you want to email us, it's at ruleofthegalaxysw@gmail.com. Thanks for being a part of the show. We're going to get right to our guests, but first we'll go around the horn to Mr. Brent. Brent, how are you, sir?
well, first I'll have to say I think the reason why there's no background is my fault. We were trying to, it's exactly what it was, because I was clicking around on stuff. Hey, we got a Jack Harvey checking in to talk to us, IndyCar extraordinaire. But yeah, this weekend we were doing an Indy Open for the Star Wars Legion. We had 50 people from the Midwest region come and play this little tabletop miniatures game where I paint up stuff. I showed everybody that I'm painting a train set. It's for like a different subway system that the store that I go and play at has. I'm going to have to make it more Boba Fettish. Now I'm going to have to look and research some yellows and stuff like that because I was told it looked like Boba Fett. But we were streaming live and I had to try to get access to the YouTube channel. So I asked for our StreamYard. And in my effort of trying to get our stuff to stream on YouTube through the StreamYard account, I think I messed everything up for Joe. So I apologize, Joe.
It's okay. We'll make it look pretty just by smiling and putting our handsome faces on the screen. That'll be all right.
Sure. Yeah.
But it looks like it went well for you, so that's good. And glad you could be here. And thanks for falling on the sword. So it wasn't my fault.
No, it's definitely my fault. I remember clicking off the background and messing around with stuff.
Okay. Alfie, how are you, sir?
Oh, we're doing great, Joe. Just happy to be here, talk some Star Wars, talk about this new book and the Acolyte later.
You got it. You got it. Well, great to have you. And Azalea, we see you in the background. Always great to see you. Just to let everybody know, again, Star Wars authors, Kelly Knox and Clayton Sandell, we really appreciate you two taking the time. I was so happy and thankful that you guys sent me, or Inside Edition sent me, the Star Wars Return of the Jedi, a visual archive. And it is an awesome book. So if you haven't gotten it, it looks like the published date was April 23rd of this year. Go get it. But let's go right to these two great guests. We'll start, ladies first. We'll start with Kelly. Kelly, thanks for being a part of Rule of the Galaxy. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem at all. We're really glad and excited that you're here. Clayton, how are things going for you, sir?
Things are going well. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having us on, and very happy to talk about this book, which I would have bought if I hadn't, co-authored it. It's right up my alley. So.
Well, that is good to hear. Now, like I said, selfishly, I haven't gotten the book to Brent or Alfie or D-Doc yet. And D-Doc lives in Philadelphia, so it's going to be a hard stretch for me to get the book to him from Indianapolis. But these two guys live down the road from me, so once we break away from this show, I'll make sure next time I meet up with them, they get to check it out because it is awesome. Kelly, I'll start with you. Before we hop into the book, We'll just your Star Wars fandom. Where did that begin? What made you want to get involved with Star Wars, and what was the impetus to get into this and then start writing books like this?
Wow, I'll talk forever if I answer every single question. But so I started as a kid. I am of the age where I got to see Return of the Jedi in the movie theater when I was 5 or 6 years old. Poor Clayton's heard me tell the story like 20 times, but when I remember it, because it was the release night or whatever night that we went, I was with my dad and my sister, and right when the Ewoks stole the speeder, the snapped because
Oh.
back in the day they did that. And so
wow.
that memory is one of those like core memory things that is always stuck in my head, especially when I rewatch Return of the Jedi. But as I got older, we watched our tapes that were taped off at HBO, and that's how we kind of watched over and over and over again. And that's how I became a fan. As a girl, I didn't really talk about it to any other friends. It was just kind of my own thing because you'd get made fun of if a girl likes Star Wars. So it's been a fun journey going from that to now where we are, with lots of chatter on the internet and friends, and here I am talking about it tonight. But yeah, I never would have been expected to end up here. I have a very long and windy path through Star Wars Galaxies, which is a video game I got to work on, and I write for StarWars.com, and now I get to write books. And this one came about because the editor invited me to be part of the team with Clayton and ST Bende, and it was a lot of fun to get to work with them on this.
Awesome. Clayton, how about you? I know you've got a kind of a diverse background also led you this way.
Yeah. Kelly and I could tell each other's Star Wars origin stories from memory now at this point. I was 4 when I saw Star Wars for the first time in the theaters, and it instantly took.
I love that picture.
Man,
that's Christmas 1977 with my grandma Carol. But anyway, yeah, it just hit at that time when we had Star Wars. We had all right 3 years in a row, right in my formative years. We went to Empire and then Jedi, and so yeah, it just sort of fused itself into my young DNA. And then when the movies were out of the theaters, I kind of turned my interest to learning about the behind the scenes and the making of, and so devouring all the documentaries and TV segments and books. The art of special effects that Thomas Smith wrote, I got for Christmas one year, and I still have it on my shelf in the other room, and use it frequently for research. And then when I became grown up and got into TV professionally, about 2015, as Force Awakens was about to come out, I started doing some behind the scenes feature type reporting, kind of by accident, really, and then discovered that that's a cool side hustle I can have for my job, and so just kind of dove into it, and so have had the opportunity to do some really fun things and talk to some really just creators and actors and people who just blow me away with their ingenuity and how they put these things together, films and TV shows and all of that. So yeah, that's kind of been my interest. And then got into the writing a couple of years ago. My first project was the DK book, Star Wars Timelines.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started. This is my second, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. Well, again, as Brent said, hey to Jack Harvey. Hello, mate. Always good to have an IndyCar driver come and watch us talk Star Wars. And if you two are into racing at all, go cheer on our good friend Jack Harvey, who runs in the IndyCar circuit. He's a great guy, and he's been on the show a number of times. And it looks like we've got Wikipedia here with us. So
Wikipedia is in the house. That's probably one of the greatest things ever. Is now I have a Wikipedia page that I'm immensely proud to be among such luminous beings.
That's awesome. Brent or Alfie, before I monopolize, do you guys either one have a start of a question you want to ask these two great people?
Yeah, because I always like to know. I mean, so you talked about your Star Wars origin stories. How'd you get into what's your writing origin stories? How did you? Because it sounded like Clayton, you went in through like a kind of as a roundabout way, kind of back end. But Kelly, were you kind of wanting to be in the journalistic aspect to start off with? So what's your writing origin story?
Yeah, no, I majored in English in college, but I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And then I got very lucky straight after graduation to get in a job in technical writing, which wasn't so great, but it was a job. But the skills that I learned then, I'm actually still using now when I make things like crafts for StarWars.com, because it was very like, do this, do this, do this. And so that's actually still skills that I use. So I still kind of appreciate that time, even though it was like terrible. It was not as fun as Star Wars. Let's just say that. So I already had some professional writing experience. I got into video games, and they, at first as a tester, and then they saw that I had writing skills, and so they moved me into like the web team for that. And so the writing kind of came along gradually with it. So after I had Star Wars Galaxies experience and everything, I actually quit to be a stay-at-home mom, and so I started freelancing, and then that's how I got started at StarWars.com.
Did I hear you correctly that you lived out every 14-year-old kid's dream of being paid to play video games?
Yes, I was a video game tester for about a year before they moved me into writing. So yeah.
I mean, Alfie, how much would your child pay Star Wars to be able to play a Star? He would pay to play.
Yes, that would be his absolute dream. He would pay you to do that.
Yep.
Hours on end.
And Wikipedia is throwing in here, and just to follow up the Kelly stuff, honestly, yes. I've got 3 grandchildren now. I know I don't look it right. 3 grandchildren, but I'm always finding. Hey, you're the one with all the whiteness there, mister. But
Guilty.
like the craft books and everything that's kid based, everything that I can do something with them in the future. My wife and I have been storing up on any kind of book like that. So the
that's
craft
great.
books, yep. And I did follow along with you on the dad jokes on social media. As I kept going, where is someone writing these? Was she writing these? And it was so much fun. I would comment. I'd be like, that was great. And that's where I first started noticing that I was like, is she doing this to get paid, or is she just doing this?
Nope.
It was fun. So yeah, you made it into a book out of all that.
Yeah, I did. That part was unexpected, but yes.
And it's Father's Day.
It is a great Father's Day present. Oh,
Yes.
wait, I have it.
There you go. And you know
Star
what,
Wars Day.
Kelly, you've got a request from Wikipedia. Give us a live dad
Oh, a
joke.
live dad joke.
Here we go.
One of my favorites, I can tell you. How does Darth Vader keep his Star Destroyer warm with the space heater?
It's very good.
Very well done. Very well done. Golf clap for Father's Day.
Thank
there
you,
we
thank
go.
Clayton, how did journalism come about for you? Sorry, I had to interrupt because I heard her say got paid to play test games, and I just
I never had a job quite that cool.
Seriously.
He says with the Emmy behind him.
Yes.
Well,
Emmy winner. Yes.
I knew that I always wanted to kind of do something in radio, television, broadcasting, movies, whatever. I was lucky as a kid in that respect, and so one job seemed to always kind of lead to another, from doing radio broadcasting to video production and into news, and sort of I never really had a clear, this is how I'm going to do it kind of plan. I sort of stumbled through in a lot of ways, but led to ABC. And then when the opportunity came up to do Star Wars related stuff, I just took every opportunity, whether it was short TV pieces, or we did a sound design documentary one time on The Last Jedi. That's a little longer. One of my favorite print articles I ever wrote was on Ken Nightinghall, who was the infamous pink booty shorts boom operator in Star Wars. I talked to him about that because Celebration 2019 in Chicago was the first time that I was sort of aware that people were cosplaying as pink booty shorts boom operator guy, and became a whole thing. They had stickers, they had t-shirts printed up, they had all this stuff. And so I decided I was going to reach out and find out what was going on with this guy and what he thought of all of that. And I was able to talk to him a few years before he passed, but it was really fun. So, just random fun stuff like that comes up. So whether it was writing about the behind the scenes aspects or aspects of fandom, it was just sort of like, yeah, I'll do it. do it all. And so that's, when I was at ABC, I just sort of amassed a portfolio, if you will, of stuff that I had done. And so that was some of the stuff that I sent to DK when I knew they were looking for somebody to help out on timelines.
That's absolutely awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Alfie, Brent and I have asked away. Do you have any initial questions?
Yeah, on the book, what led you to being on Return of the Jedi? Was it just because of the anniversary, or was there something else?
Well, if Star Wars, if we know one thing, it's that Star Wars fans always agree on everything all the time, right? And
Yes.
clearly,
Yes.
Return of the Jedi is everybody's favorite movie of all time.
Oh.
No disagreement ever, right?
No.
No,
everyone loves them.
That was
Yeah.
entirely an Insight Editions decision. So that's what we started with, and that was their call.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had a lot in place already when they contacted Clayton and I in the ST.
Well, I will tell you, I've sent tons of pictures of these guys as I've been flipping through, and I'm showing the flip outs and the extras and the started here, ended here kind of pictures and all that kind of stuff. It was absolutely awesome. Again, I can't wait to share it with them. We need to get together more often, like in person, because we always talk online. And it's
When is that ever going to happen? That's
don't
what
know.
adults do, is say we need to get together until we die.
Oh, Alfie, you had to go there.
Truth hurts, Joe.
I know.
Truth hurts.
I know. Well, I have the Peter Pan syndrome. I don't think about all those things. I think about being young and energetic and a kid my whole life. I mean,
Absolutely.
nothing bad ever is going to happen.
Peter Pan.
So thank you. So one of the things, looking through this and then talking to you guys, it amazes me, and maybe I'm just naive and I'm not seeing it, but would you guys agree that like Star Wars fans are more into the behind the scenes and the in-depth minutia of their fandom as much, if not more, than any other group? I mean, again, pink booty shorts guy, right? Like we want to know the stories of the stories. We want to know when George was talking to somebody behind the scenes. And, so putting this book together, you guys really got to dive into the meat of all that. And I thought that was really great.
Yeah, there's the whole Light and Magic series. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, you kind of get the whole story behind the story, and you realize how, or at least I did realize how amazing it is that we even got any Star Wars to start with. Like, talk about flying by the seat of their pants. Every movie, that's how they approached it, and you kind of get the feeling in the book too that they didn't have everything exactly planned out, and they kind of just made it happen. And that's actually one of my favorite things about Star Wars, and maybe why fans really enjoy learning about how it all came together, is that the spirit of innovation and just trying to make it happen to tell the story that George wanted to tell. That's one of my favorite things. And that's something the book explores a lot, and what kind of sets it apart from a straight behind the scenes book is that we talk about that, but then we take the story they were telling and talk about how it kind of expands out into the galaxy that we're getting to see now. Things in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, that had originated in Return of the Jedi that you might not realize, unless you're watching a Mandalorian episode with someone like me who does the Leo point at the screen when something comes on.
Yes.
If you're not that kind of person, you should definitely pick this book up because it'll do the point for you.
100%. Yeah. Book of Alfie. We call him the Book of Alfie for that reason. Is he's kind of, we just feel like, yeah, I have this, but we also just have Alfie. So we just go to him and we're like, hey, in 1982, that guy did that. Okay. Thanks, Alfie.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah. I think it's fantastic. And when looking at the book, I'll just jump right back in again because I'm the monopolizer. Was there something of Return of the Jedi that really caught each of your attention? Like, what was the thing when you got into the nuts and bolts of it, Kelly and Clayton, that stood out to each one of you of the making of it and the behind the scenes stuff and how it maybe merged into something else?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really kind of fascinating is obviously the first Star Wars film gave us the entire world, set the bar. Empire gave us probe droids and walkers and stuff that walks on 4 legs and 2 legs. I think though that Jedi, what stood out for me is that Jedi really is the origin for so many cool, iconic designs and ideas that have persisted, for decades. And it's everything from my personal favorite is the folding wing shuttle, right? Like that was such a cool shot when you see it come out. It's like, oh, that's neat. And then you come in and see how it lands. Oh, it's very practical for getting in, landing on a Death Star. And now, there's not you can't throw a rock and hit a Star Wars project that doesn't have a folding wing something in it. So whether it was that or speeder bikes or, characters, I'll ask you guys, maybe you know the answer, but I'm going to give you a trivia question. When Mon Mothma, in that very critical scene, gives her big speech, her big monologue, how long do you think that lasts?
Her monologue? Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
Her monologue.
Are you talking on-screen time, or are you talking about
rough guess? Yeah. Rough guess. How long she speaks for?
Go ahead. Each one of you, I'll follow up.
20 seconds.
I would say it's even less than that. I was going to go like 5 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 38 seconds.
Oh.
But that 38 seconds just sets the 38 seconds, and 4 decades later, Mon Mothma is now still a character. You can find her in everything, whether it's animated series or the
Andor.
one of the key parts of Andor.
The expanded universe. She was all over that.
Over that, and it just that I think speaks to. I just think that speaks to the legacy of Jedi, whether it's characters or designs or ideas that pop up. It just seems to be this source, this primary source that creators today keep going back to for a good reason.
Gotcha. Kelly, how about you? Oh, go ahead.
One of my sections, we each had sections of the book that we were tackling, and one of mine was the space battle over the Death Star 2, and I didn't realize before I started writing it that scene, which they called SB-19, because I think it was the 19th shot of the battle, where the Falcon is flying towards the screen and then all the TIE fighters chase him. I didn't know until I started researching that was the most complicated visual effects shot that had ever been done up until that point in time. I found a documentary where Ken Ralston's showing you how they tracked each little asteroid and debris and ship, and they had to do it by hand, and you get the idea that it was so complicated and so much work that you probably wouldn't have realized just in that 5-second shot of the Falcon coming toward you. And that just blew me away. Again, the innovation and the work that those guys put in on such a tight schedule. I think it's just phenomenal again that we got to see these movies ever.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Brent. I cut you off there.
No, it was more, it's kind of, I peek into the background, and it was something that Clayton was saying about like the different, more or less, toys, and what I see in the background and the designs. Is there a specific design that you gravitate toward that you guys like? Speaking over your your left-hand shoulder, Kelly, it looks like there's a BD droid, and then Clayton, you have a massive amount of memorabilia behind you. So I'm just is there one design from that you think is like what that draws you every time you look at it? Like, what are you drawn to as far as Star Wars design?
Oh, it's always the shuttle for me. Like if I come in here, if I'm going to take anything off the wall and play with it, it's that shuttle.
You're talking the Lambda. You're talking the Lambda shuttle, right?
Yeah.
The one, okay,
that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I just think it's huge, first of all, but it's just so much fun and cool looking. Yeah, I think that definitely that's mine, hands down. Easy answer for me.
Mine's actually behind me too. Mine's Vader, because I talked about his helmet in the book a little bit, but his helmet is actually asymmetrical, and if it ever looks weird to you, it's because they made it symmetrical. And I just love that the imperfection is kind of like a part of him, and also that helmet is a 1983 Don Post Return of the Jedi helmet. I had it that long, so it's also a personal favorite.
That's awesome.
I
didn't know that. I learned something.
I I can't remember how much of it is in the book, but when they did it for episode 3, when they made his helmet at the end, it's symmetrical because it's it's a new helmet in episode 3.
I think some of the things I loved in here is in the book is obviously it wasn't all super serious. There was a lot of fun things involved. It was talking about the Mad magazines. It was talking about the comics that were around that time. It was talking about how the Ewoks movies and cartoons and Droids cartoons were spawned off of, finishing up with the Return of the Jedi and everything like that. And, how Star Wars still, even after that, was such part of mainstream culture. Like, things they were talking about Ronald Reagan and the Soviets, and they're talking about Star Wars was still there. So I loved how this book not only talks about the movie, but it jumps into everything else in society and culture that was kind of spawned off of this show. So did you find anything, was there anything that stood out to you on that to where you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea that, this was tied to it or anything like that, where it's just fun, just silly things that weren't even movie related. Just,
I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it does do a pretty good job, and I learned a lot from that section because I didn't actually work on that section. And so learning about the Ewok, all the Ewok movies, which I vaguely remember as a kid, but I don't think I had seen them again until they popped up again on Disney Plus. So I a ton about the Ewok movies I think stood out for me. But you're right. It's sort of it doesn't just talk about the film itself. It's like how the reaction and the cultural impact and how much people were talking about it being the last film that we thought we were ever going to get.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buzz around it.
Yep. Alfie or Brent?
Yeah, when you were researching this book, what kind of did you get access at Lucasfilm to look into things? I mean, what were some of the things that you used for researching this book?
They just gave us the keys, and we could walk wherever we wanted to.
Nice.
No,
We would never leave if that were the case.
We would still be there. Yeah, we would still be there, hiding in the bathroom when they locked it. Yeah, a lot of it is books. I have in the other room just a ton of the old behind the scenes books. You name it. We scoured it, whether it was behind the scenes books, old insider articles, going way back. Yeah, tons of insider stuff, which is great because again, I don't have very many of those copies from the old days. So it's just fun going through, and even you'd find stuff in there that was not even Jedi related, which is really fun. But lots of different sources, hundreds. If you look at our footnotes, it's hundreds of sources.
I think Jedi stands out to me. Sorry, Brent.
Oh, you're good.
That's the first one I remember behind the scenes from. Especially, was it a Time magazine cover with George Lucas? Where he was standing in the workshop with all the models around him.
All the stuff behind him. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even had a documentary they made from, what was it called? Like From Jedi to something or the other. They made their own little behind the scenes video too.
Yeah, I think they had by that time realized the value of having that stuff. I mean, I think they filmed and recorded a lot of stuff for the first film, but I think by this time around they'd sort of perfected the archiving aspects of it. Lucky for us.
Yes.
And they were so open about it too. I did a lot of reading through the old Bantha Tracks newsletters that they used to send out to their fan club.
Yes.
There would be like one issue that was only Joe Johnston talking about what they had done, that day, or another ILM guy would talk about how he built the Death Star, the tunnels into the reactor core, like that sort of stuff. I just read almost every issue because it was so interesting to see it from their point of view.
Well, looking back, you mentioned the Ewoks, and we had the birth of the Night Sisters in the Ewok movies.
Yes.
And the Blurgs in the Ewoks movies. So that's fantastic that all that stuff from even then is still back a part of it right now. One of the things that I really liked, obviously, there were all kinds of different things, but this letter right here, the copy of this letter from Warwick Davis.
It's the best.
To George Lucas. Dear Mr. Lucas, I was in your film can I get the new toys that are coming out? Wrote the letter. I mean, obviously it's a copy of it, but to see that that's how simple and kind of, I guess, how simple the world was at that time, right? Like, here's this young boy. I mean, I think he was the same age as I was at that time, saying, would it be okay if I get the toys to play with, especially the Jabba the Hutt, right? I mean, just fantastic little snippets like that in here just blew me away. But I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that is one of my favorite things in the book, because I Warwick was all of us, right? Like, we all envisioned like writing that article. And in fact, my aunt, who was a few years older than me, when she was in high school, when Empire came out, and she wrote a similar letter to Lucasfilm. She was actually doing a research project in high school, and they sent her back a copy of the making of Empire Strikes Back, and George had signed it. So it just takes you back to a time when the company was a lot smaller. There were fewer people. And that letter, I just love that letter, especially the part where he goes, "I hope you remember me." It's like,
oh, gosh,
wait a minute, you were wicked. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it is absolutely one of my favorite things.
Go ahead.
Nice. So you're talking about all of this research, and you're talking about reading every article from the Bantha tracks. How long does a book like this take from when you get the call? Right, I'm not talking about like how many before production. When you guys get the call, how long time span wise did it take for you to do your sections? Because, like you said, you're only responsible for 2, 3, 4 sections, and then they compile everything together to try to write a book like this. So, what is like the timeline you guys were given?
Been like 7 years. No.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah,
I know.
Like,
it's almost always a matter of months, I would say.
Yeah.
It depends on the book always, but this one, Clayton, do you remember?
I think
It was
mine
a
was
few
about
months.
2 to 3 months. Yeah. It's
Wow.
sort of funny, because you kind of get to a point where you're kind of going back and forth a little bit with the editors, and making small changes here and there, and then it gets, of course, reviewed by the folks at Lucasfilm and the story group, and they weigh in. So yeah, I think for this one, probably about 3 months was my part.
Yeah.
Wow.
I kind of get mixed up because I was doing dad jokes at the same time. So I would have like my morning would be dad jokes, and then my afternoon would be Return of the Jedi. And I also was doing the Marvel book also. And so it's kind of I'm glad Clayton remembers, because I don't quite remember that time period.
It's
Kelly,
a blur.
I always say that I have adult attention deficit syndrome, but it's what allows me to multitask so much. So I think you and I are in the same boat, because I work on a job, I run this, I do that, and it's just so,
yeah. I don't know if I'd ever have 3 books at the same time again. So yeah.
Good to know.
In doing a book like this, let me think how do you stop a section? Because, like, to me, just thinking about it, I would never be able to get out of Jabba's palace. Just character after character. Every character has got a story in the movie. Every actor or actress has got a story. And I think it would be impossible just for myself to stop that kind of research.
So we're bound by an outline, which helps a ton, which they already had completed by the time we came on board. And sometimes we're bound by word counts, not too much for this one, if memory serves. Just kind of, but you see in these pages that there's very little space, and so you kind of have to write around that. Otherwise, I think maybe it would be way too easy, like you said, to just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it is a visual archive, right? So they want to give priority to the great pictures, which I've seen a lot of behind the scenes books, and there's still a few images in here that I had never seen before, which is always kind of fun. There's always like way more that you could put in. You end up chopping stuff out. And
I just saw a picture the other day, of Bib Fortuna's girlfriend that's in Return of the Jedi. I'd never seen her before. All the times I've seen that movie, and it led to like a few hours of tracking it down, finding pictures, who played this, and finding out that this character, who has like 2 seconds of screen time, had an actual backstory.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun that
Yeah.
40 plus years later you can still do that with a movie?
I'm just, for those watching on YouTube and Twitter, I'm showing the knockoff Polaroids of the actual Rebel commandos on Endor, and they had to, I'm sure, every day go, okay, does he look like that again? Yes. Okay, come back. You can do that. And they had their pictures, their names, and what role they played, and it's just, those are the little extras that are in here. There's a whole packet of just their cards.
Is there a Rex one? I'm sure you've
There
gotten
you
that.
are.
Please tell me. Does it say Rex on that?
It does not. It says L. Burner Forrest.
I'm sure you guys have done the press junkets, and every single one of your interviews, you had to have been asked if that is Rex.
Actually,
it did come up once, I think.
Really? Only once? Okay.
Rex is my guy. So
it did come up once, yeah, and I couldn't remember exactly whether Filoni or somebody had walked that back or not.
I think technically it's not.
Right, like
headcanon. Let's keep it.
Dude, everybody has their own headcanon, but
yeah.
So I heard in one of your interviews, and I apologize, I don't remember which one of you it was, but it stuck with me a little bit that somebody asked you something about Darth Vader / Anakin turning at the end of Return of the Jedi, and how that was really the impetus for being able to make the prequel trilogy. Like, to be able to show that he could turn, and there was a person, and there was a loving human being inside that machine, right? Allowed you to be able to rope it all the way back to say, see, here's this little kid who becomes that. And I apologize again. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I heard it and I was like, oh, that sticks with me. I want to talk about that. But do you guys feel like that's a big part of it, that this movie actually allowed where you could show the breakdown of his love for his children and be able to start that Padme story and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I think is fascinating to me is that you hear people who didn't like the prequels say, well, those prequels were not Star Wars. That the fact is, when George was making Jedi, there is a story conference, a well-documented story conference, in which they are talking about in order for George to kind of understand Luke's journey, he knew he needed to understand his father's journey first. And in this story conference, George basically lays out the entire narrative backbone of what would become the prequels. In 1982, he's thinking about this, and he talks about Anakin, and he talks about his coming under the wing of this politician who isn't what he seems, and talks about his wife, and talks about them having twins, and even to the point where George had plotted out again in the early 80s that Obi-Wan and Anakin were eventually going to have this climactic battle at a volcano, at an active volcano. So I think that, to me, it was going back and reading through all of that, just sort of, reinforced the idea that George knew what he was doing. And those films that came after Jedi were exactly the films that he wanted to make and had always planned on making.
Awesome. Brent or Alfie?
I can remember seeing that story on Entertainment Tonight right after around the time of Return of the Jedi. And
we all
that's
knew
exactly
it somehow,
what
right?
they
Yeah.
said. Yeah. Right. Exactly what they said.
We just wanted him to make them like right away.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
go ahead.
This is a completely different off-the-wall personality test question that I ask every new guest that's on our podcast. There's some background that forgive me, it's going to take me a second. I think everybody knows my shtick by now, and they're probably rolling their eyes, the listeners that we have. So it comes down to, we just got a picture from our buddy D-Doc, who was at Sevi's palace or Sevi's workshop and was going to make himself a lightsaber. And it comes down to lightsaber hilts. So the story was basically, they were talking about Count Dooku. I happened to not be on, but they were talking about going to just Galaxy's Edge, and no one was picking up the Dooku lightsaber. And who would want the Dooku's lightsaber because it was curved, and it like there was a lot going on, and like who even likes Dooku? Like they cut his head and his arms off. Let's nickname him Stumpy. And then they're like, well, maybe they should make a toy figure where the hands come off, and then oh wait, no, maybe like you take him to the doctor's office and he's like, hey, like my kid swallowed the hands, but I need the hand back because that figure's worth something, right? So it all comes down to your favorite lightsaber hilt, because I stood up for Dooku because I liked the fact that the hilt had, and it was different. So thinking, and I know you may never have thought about this or whatever, but in the entirety of the Star Wars world, not specifically episode or Return of the Jedi, but in the Star Wars world, is there a specific lightsaber hilt that you like? Oh, I like the way that was designed. That was cool. And it's kind of a personality test in a way.
I got one. You got
Go
one,
for it.
Kelly?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Darth Vader's lightsaber, which I guess was Anakin's, right? No, it was always Darth Vader's lightsaber because I think that's the one that I used to draw the most when I was a little kid. It seemed like the easiest one to draw, sort of the shape of the emitter side, and then where the down near the grip was fairly simple. It's a simple but kind of elegant hilt to me, and I think I'm not even sure. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Darth Vader. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It might be because I got to customize it and make it mine so much, but Cal Kestis's lightsaber from Fallen Order and Survivor, it's actually the only one I think I own.
Well, you also got the BD. You got BD1 over there too.
I do have BD1. There's some itty bitty BDs you can't see. They're like this big up there, my little BD collection. But I really like Cal's lightsaber. I like that it was his master's. I like that eventually, I'm trying to remember when I customize it, what I make it look like. But the hilt is always very simple when I do it. It actually stays pretty close to what his master's was. And I think maybe that's why I like it so much, is because he keeps it to honor him. But recently I got the party lightsaber blade in Jedi Survivor, where every time you swing it, it changes color. And I was like, I want that. So he'll swing it and it changes like yellow, green, blue, like every time he swings it. So I would rock that.
I guess that's the impetus of the question too, right? Is like Jedi Survivor, you can make and customize your own.
Yeah.
Studies Workshop, you can make your own. But is there one that you like? I personally like. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. I really like Ezra's first. So Ezra Bridger for the Rebels season, it was the one that's got the gun on it, and the gun with the lightsaber. There was just something that like it fits his personality, and I like that was what I kind of like. That's really cool design. So I'll just throw that out there. But
go ahead, Clayton.
thank you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was gonna reach over because I have.
Dude, he's got it, doesn't he? He's got it.
My son did this one, which I thought was
Wait, yeah. I do have a Galaxy's Edge one too. Where's
the Galaxy's Edge ones are fun.
So that's just a custom bit.
Oh, love it.
That's what I love to see. See, right? When else do you get to pull them out, right? When somebody asks about them.
Exactly, right. I mean, yeah.
We've had a variety of answers on those.
Oh,
that's
nice.
the Calcestis one that they made. So.
That's really nice.
Guys, I think we've had, I don't know, probably a dozen or more different types of sabers or hilts of sabers named by guests that we've had on. It's been a very wide array, but I will say, Clayton, I don't think anyone else has said Darth Vader's yet.
That's the first one that I think I can remember as well.
Yeah, and I remember having it as a toy as a kid. Just a cheapo plastic version. But I think that's why I always would draw it. I just remember drawing it a lot. So
then I'm going to ask the next question. I guess the quick follow-up question to that is Vader who you are drawn to? Are you a big Vader fan?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember my aunt and uncle who took me to see the film when I was 4, explaining what I was about to see, and I remember that I vaguely remember them describing who the bad guy was going to be when he popped up on screen, and describing him and not to be too afraid of him, and then when he appears, he just in that sea of white, that white hallway, and all the stormtroopers in the white armor, and to have him come through the smoke like that, I think I was terrified when the door starts to explode and in the smoke and everything. So it was for a 4-year-old, that kind of an entrance makes an impression, and I think that's where my Vader love comes from.
Good. And,
I got it
and
up there somewhere.
Kelly, how about you? Are you drawn to Cal, or is there a character or a few characters that are your go-to characters?
For the longest time, Vader was my favorite until I started working on Obi-Wan stuff, and then now Obi-Wan's my guy.
Yeah.
I think maybe because I spent so much time, for that book thinking about him and thinking about like everything he'd been through, and then the Kenobi show came out shortly after.
Yeah.
So I think now Obi-Wan's my guy. Yeah.
For every character on Wikipedia, Kelly's got a book.
Be more Obi-Wan. Do this. Let's
Be more Akbar.
Yeah. Oh, by
I'd
the
write
way,
that.
so Akbar, I don't know, Ryan McGee, who's on ESPN and SEC Network, he is a huge Admiral Akbar fan. So he is all about that. So, and he's a guest on our show all the time. Great guy. So we have been honored and blessed to, over the past 4 years while we've been doing this show, to interview different people who actually have been in either a movie or a animated series or whatever. And it's been fantastic. I got a chance to interview or be a part of an interview with Ian McDermott. And then our group got a chance to interview Femi Taylor, Ula from Return of the Jedi. And she was fantastic. Ian was fantastic. Just two likable, great people. Did you get a chance to, on top of all the research, did you get a chance to interview anyone who was involved with Return of the Jedi? Because I know you had an Ula section in there, the Return of Ula, where she came back and did the reworking and the filming.
I had no idea until I read that section.
Really?
About that. She looks so good. I had no idea. But
well,
anyway,
we just saw her at the ICCC last year and did that interview with her, and we're like, there's no way she's this old. She looks like she's right. She looked like she was just
still the same
movie. We were like,
I couldn't
wow.
tell.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's cool. No, we didn't interview anybody new necessarily for this, but that would be, I would love to line them all up and ask a ton of questions that always come up when you're working on these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brent or Alfie, I know we want to be courteous with their time, and I want to kind of wind it down here so they can break away. Anything from you guys before? Go ahead.
Next question is, what's the next book? I mean, Kelly seems to churn one out all the time. So, like, what's the next project? I'm giving you a chance to plug yourselves here a little bit. What's next on tap for you guys? But
you
Kelly,
guys are very lucky, I think. Don't you think, Clayton?
I think so. Yeah, because we can
breaking news.
It's Nika Futterman time again.
Yeah!
We can finally talk about this one.
Oh no!
Phantom Menace. Nice.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Wow.
Coming next year.
Next.
Fantastic. Visual Archive.
So same basic type of book, and this one's on the Phantom Menace. Okay.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's a 25-year kind of a thing, and
That's that.
But hey, that's why I said ish. Like,
it's what Inside Editions has next on their plan, right? Just like with this one. So, well, no, thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate that.
Same team.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's two of the same writers, but the same team working on the. Is your third writer?
Yeah, I think we can say.
Okay.
Esti Bende is on this one, as well as Amy Rickow, who you all know from Star Wars 365 and her other writing. She writes another prolific Star Wars writer and voice in the fandom.
Well, Amy has promised me that this summer, sometime when she breaks free, she will hop on with us. So that is great to hear. I can't wait to say, hey, we know something about you. So, so obviously, as Brent said, we want to give you the chance. Are there ways that you can promote? Where can people find you? Where can they get your stuff? You've both been involved with some great things so far, and obviously you've got great things coming. Where's the best place to track down Clayton Sandell? Oh, sorry, just caught myself there. Kelly Knox, your books, your works you're working on, things like that.
You can always find me online too much online. At Twitter at Kelly_Knox. I still do a lot of writing for StarWars.com. I do have one more book out in the fall. I'm part of the team on this new Star Wars encyclopedia that's been announced already. Yeah, I'm easy to find.
Okay, gotcha. We can do that. Clayton, how about you?
Yeah, still on Twitter, X, whatever you prefer to call it these days. At Clayton_Sandell, and on Instagram at Clayton Sandell. And then occasionally you will, well, I do a lot of different stories on Scripps News, but occasionally, and I will always tweet them or post them, going behind the scenes on some Star Wars stuff, which we hope to do soon. So we'll keep you posted.
Read his Jake Lloyd story if you haven't already.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd. Before you guys break, we're here in Indiana, right? And Jake Lloyd spent much of his formative years right down the road from us.
He did, yeah.
In another suburb. In years past, when we started the show, I really wanted to reach out to him because of that Indiana connection and seeing his recent stories, everything going on, the things coming out from his mom and everything. Your heart goes out to him because I think we all want him to get that cheer, that standing ovation that Hayden Christensen's getting right now with his kind of comeback story. Even if he just came out and tipped his cap, I think everybody wants to see that. So where is the way to track that down, that Jake Lloyd story that you mentioned?
I think if you just Google Jake Lloyd and Scripps News and maybe my name, it should pop up. But yeah, what sort of the idea sort of behind that was exactly what you just mentioned. When Ahmed Best walked out in 2019 and got the standing ovation, when Hayden came out in Anaheim and was there with Ewan again, there's a lot of love out there for Jake among people who loved that movie when it came out, and so thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, it was a nice update. I think he's doing okay. Good
to hear. I think all of us would be very happy to see that. I was there when Ahmad came out in 2019, and that was my son and I looked around. We were like, wow. Just the roar that came out in that room was crazy. So you two have been wonderful. I can't thank you enough for one, and Inside Editions for sending me this. Again, it will get shared to Brent and Alfie, and they can read through it at their leisure and go over things. It's an incredible book for anybody who hasn't gotten it. Star Wars Return of the Jedi, a visual archive by Inside Editions. But thank you for coming and spending an hour with us, answering our questions. You guys are great. We follow everything you put out there on the social media, and hopefully maybe when the Phantom Menace thing comes out, we can chat again.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'd love to. Yeah, we'd love to. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
You got it. Thanks. So Alfie and Brent, how are you guys doing?
Fantastic. Man, the Phantom Menace is really be an interesting one because you can really incorporate the rise of the internet with that.
Oh.
Think back to StarWars.com releasing the pictures every day, the little 15 to 30-second videos that they would release of behind the scenes filming. There was something on Entertainment Tonight at least once a week about what scene they were doing and some behind the scenes.
And all the pop culture, the stuff the merchandising, the merchandising that I wouldn't say that it almost overindulged on the merchandising at the time got to the point to where it was one of the first major ones that everybody's enough already. Right, but not, and then all the rest, it started that trend, and then everybody did the same thing, right? That's kind of the.
No,
that's the way everything was for the longest time, was because of the prequel trilogies and the way that it marketed. Heck, what would Demolition Man was about Taco Bell and had product placement and
there was a glutton of prequel material out there. And that was one of the first times that I can remember looking back where it was hey, we're going to release a novel. Here's 4 different covers for it. Hey, we're going to release, a comic. Here's 3 or 4 different covers for it. So it wasn't just buying the one. There was so much of everything.
And we've had to talk about the New York Times bestseller list, and the Phantom Menace was a number one. The novelization of it was number one. I only think that was because everybody felt like they had to buy each of the different covers. So it was the same fans that bought it 4 times. I'm being facetious, Alfie, but you also know that there are people out there that bought all 4.
They still bought it.
Scott,
Still sold it.
Scott
They did. You're right.
Scott
You're
Reifman.
right.
Well, before we get into anything else, I will just say again, hats off to Clayton and Kelly, 2 very gracious people. They were very entertaining. Really love what they do on social media and how they promote the Star Wars, books and community and everything else. So thank you again to them. And Inside Editions, thanks for getting us connected. So that was really cool. And I'm just going to carry this book in my car. So next time I bump into either one of you, I'm just going to say, hey, take this and go through it because you'll really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So so thanks for being a part of that. We had is anything else besides Acolyte going on in your Star Wars world right now? Brent, I know you did the Star Wars Legion.
I mean, other than that, like that was I talked on stream for 18 hours, I feel like, over the course of 2 days.
My gosh.
Yeah. So each game's about 2.5 hours long, and then we had little breaks in between. But it was analysis of the game. So I'm gonna do some shameless plugs. I actually was on there because we have our own podcast, so we talked about it as well. So it's Garrison Talks.
Yep.
Is the name of the podcast. So those that play Star Wars Legion, it is Star Wars Legion specific, but this specific podcast we talked about the tournament and stuff like that. 40 players. So 6 of them were from Chicago. We had 6 from Ohio, and not just like close Ohio. It was like Cleveland, Ohio, Northeast Ohio.
Wow.
And then we had a group come up from Elizabethtown or E-Town, Kentucky. So there's about 5 or 6 of those. Those guys rent out a Airbnb somewhere locally, and they like room with like 5 or 6 guys in a house, and just it's like one of those it's like the golf trip. You name it's like the guys get together and do a trip, and they go and play this game for a couple days. So I was able to get third place in the terrain building contest. There were some better ones than what I had. That was all the Dathomir stuff. So if you can kind of look over I think it's my left shoulder.
Got it.
All the Dathomir, the stuff that I've been building for like the last month is done and painted. And
the
all that
pods
stuff.
are hanging. I see them back there.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I was at. Garrison Talks. I dropped our podcast. If you want to go watch the streams, if you like Legion, there is a Indianapolis Garrison YouTube channel, which there's all 6 games are on, as well as Indy Garrison. And we're trying to expand and do weekly streams. So I just went over to a buddy's house today, and we did a practice stream, mic'd up and talked through it, and used my terrain, and he's got all the setup from the. We're trying to get rolling and get ourselves known.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I am so glad that something as small as us starting this little thing here has gotten you into something you're passionate about like that. That's great.
I'm passionate about because it's Star Wars. I'm passionate about the people. I'm passionate about the community. The game's fun. But to me, there's about 3 or 4 other things. I'm trying to actually run a league as well. We got 20 people signed up so far for this summer casual league.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Well, I don't have anything new Star Wars besides we can talk about the Acolyte. But for me, anybody, I posted down today, anybody who listens to us, who follows us, who watches us, if you're free this Friday and Saturday, the 14th and 15th, the Indie Italian Fest is going on. Go check it out. It's at Holy Rosary Church, and it is a huge festival. And I was dumb enough, or I don't know what else, brave enough to volunteer to run a major part of it. So I was there. I'm running the Italian Heritage booth where we sell hats, shirts, trinkets, apparel, membership, all that kind of stuff. I'm running that for the next few days, so that'll be fun.
Because you look like a paisano.
Yes, yeah, paisan. But I call myself, and I'm, another story to go along with this. I was in Toronto for work on Monday and Tuesday. It was thrown together on Friday of last week. I went up to Toronto for Monday and Tuesday, which, by the way, if you haven't been to Toronto, it is a totally different world, not a different country. It's a different place, man. But it was very cool. But I ran into a guy who I somewhat do business with, and his name was last name Politi. And he looks at me and he goes, Molinaro. And he goes, you don't look Molinaro. And I said, I know. I said, in India, I go as the albino Italiano. And he started laughing. He thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, my whirlwind has been Nashville, back home, Toledo with Joey to see Jim Nance, back home, Toronto for work, and then back here to get ready for the Italian Fest and run the podcast. But come see us if you want. I'll be there. I'll take some Rule of the Galaxy stickers. If you come up and see me at the booth, I'll hand you out a Rule of the Galaxy sticker if you come and let me know you're part of the Rule of the Galaxy group here. So that's what I've got going on. Alfie, how about you? Bought anything recently? Done anything exciting Star Wars related?
I'm like Brent, with my game, it's an hour or two every day. So it looks like Andor season is getting ready to start on our game.
Okay.
Episode 1 is, I guess, over. Yeah. Luthen is,
yeah, that's what you showed the picture of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First character to come out.
They're going to have Slapface and his girlfriend, Deborah.
Slapface.
Come on, he got slapped in his face by his mom, and I can't. Cyril?
Yeah, they're eating that blue cereal. Yeah,
I'm having a hard time picturing any other characters that would be useful
Deborah's
in a
gotta
combat game.
Yularen, Deborah, obviously Andor.
Yeah, but you have to play the game though to know where they fit, and then
Right? No, I get you. I'm trying to think. Bricks could be in there. I think maybe.
Because Luthen is what's called a lifter, so he is going to go with Saw Gerrera. So as of now, Saw Gerrera is kind of a rebel that's on his own. That doesn't. Have
he
a
had
home.
4 seconds with Saw Gerrera on screen.
Yeah, but
maybe longer than 4. But
it's kind of hard to pick any characters from that series that you're going to be able to plug into a combat role playing game.
They'll find somebody.
I'm sure eventually in Andor.
Yeah.
Will
maybe his droid.
Will Mon Mothma's husband be able to bet on the ponies playing the game?
Will there be a part of the game where you marry 2 teenagers together because it brings 2 families together?
To try to start a rat hole checking account?
Okay, all right. We stop trashing it. Hey, by the way, Joey just sent me a message, and he was like, "Hey, I went and had dinner with Jack tonight." He's like, "What a great dude!" And I said, "Well, that's funny. He just came on our chat for a little while."
I know, right?
Show. I was like, "He is a great dude." So we got episode 3 of The Acolyte, and we were talking about it a lot in the chat, and I've rewatched it. That was a different episode, man. It was a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think looking at it, I definitely have some thoughts and comments, and I don't know if they're negative, but I think they're more of inquisitorial or questioning on some of the things they're doing here. I feel like you guys know me. Besides Darth Bane, besides Asajj Ventress, I'm really a light side guy. I'm a hero. That's why I always wear a white hat, because I always look at the good guy. And I feel like Star Wars is trying to do their dangdest to make it to where the Jedi are the enemy of everything. When I look at it and I say, there's a lot of good there. There's just a lot of flaws. I don't think they're the bad guy. I still think they're the good guys. They just have flaws.
But I feel like point of view.
Huh?
It's a different point of view.
Go ahead.
The whole point of the show was told to be from it's the Acolyte with a dark side spin. Like, it was supposed to have a dark side spin.
Yeah, but I don't see much out of these witches. Honestly, here's the thing. You have a group of witches that are all female. Okay? We know that the only reproduction they've had are these 2 girls. So if they're all female and all they've created in all the years they've been together are these 2 girls, why wouldn't the Jedi just let them go? Because they're going to phase out at some point in time. If it's that difficult to create these 2 girls, aren't they all going to die off at some point in time if they're not having men being a part of their cult or coven or whatever?
One, we don't like this is the hard part of jumping into a covenant that's already been established. We don't know how many times that they've done this. We don't know how many of the ladies in the covenant have already had children. We don't know how many that have died, right? So you're kind of, I think there's an assumption that it was hard. There's an assumption that they don't do it often. I think going back to what Sheev said at the opera, there are some things that Jedi think that some would call unnatural. Those Jedi would call that unnatural. If you see something as a Jedi that's unnatural, wouldn't you want to put an end to it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I see that. I was just being kind of sarcastic to say, I mean, how many more kids can they produce over the next, I mean, they want to stay hidden away and be, be in their little group and not be bothered and everything like that. Just jokingly, I was like, let them go. They're on their own. Let them be out there on their own.
I don't think we were supposed to look into it that deep.
But at the same time, if we do look at it, because we're all adults, we're all looking at things. I don't disagree with you. Let them go. I mean, you're right. Let them go. Like,
it's not like it was an army of them. It was 30 of them.
but I think Saul has that same feeling now. I think Tobin has that same, so that happened in the past, 14 years ago, I think is what it said, or 16 years ago. If you go back to episode 1 or 2, Tobin had that same situation, had that same feeling, right? Tobin was, I think, feeling the same way that you were, because he said, we thought we were doing the right thing. I think Tobin said that. And I believe Saul basically said the same thing. They thought that they were doing the right thing at the time that they were doing it, right? So I think they still, I think that those two were wrestling with this same question that you're asking.
I think they know a little bit more about them than what the show is letting on. So, but then again, I also think it's kind of, Jedis tend to see things in black and white. And like they said, it's against Republic law to teach, force-related things to children unless it's sanctioned by the Jedi.
Right. So
they have a moral authority to step in.
It's like more Hogwarts and the Ministry of Magic. You can't do magic as an underage kid anywhere but on Hogwarts' ground because you don't know enough, and you could do something stupid, right? So that's kind of the idea of Harry Potter, is that they wanted to control it until they're old enough and they've learned how to control it. Jedis are basically, to me, they're looking at the same thing. It was the original story. Jedis wanting to do that. They're wanting to control the Force because they're afraid of what could come from it.
Yeah. I kind of got the sense from the episode 2 that the witches themselves didn't understand fully what they had done.
Yeah, I think 2 of them did. I don't think the rest of the Covenant knows. I don't think they have the full understanding of it. I think Homegirl and Mom are the ones that would know.
Anasaya and Coral.
There you go. Mom and then Dad, basically, right? Because one was the loving one and one was the firm disciplinarian.
Yeah. And I see. I mean, Mother. Am I pronouncing it right? Anasaya.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't watch closely enough to catch any names.
I thought that was an interesting. I think that was an interesting, or is an interesting character, because she was a leader of that group. She was a mom. But she had to. There were so many different things on her plate. She's the one that seems like she was the one that got them away and hid them away on this planet, and she had to face the Jedi and make decisions and things like that. So that character, I like that character. I thought it was a good character right there. She had a lot of depth to her, for sure.
She also had to make the decision, right? So she was willing to let Osho go.
Yep.
Right? And I think she was willing, because of the question that you asked to start us off, she was willing to let Osho go because she thought, all right, they'll leave us alone now. Right? You can have that one because that one wants to go. I'm allowing her to make her decision.
Yeah.
You take her and now leave us alone.
What are your guys' thoughts on May? Because man, that girl, she's got some issues going on. She's a little angry.
I was really surprised with this episode in setting. The first two kind of were showcasing that they were connecting through the Force, so you would think they would have had a close relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And this, from the get-go, shows that they were complete polar opposites, constantly fighting each other.
I like the part where May said, "I share everything with you," and later on, when she said, "I want to be a Jedi," I don't want to share with May. I don't want to share everything with May. You remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was wild.
Because Osha's really the bad one. I'm
And
telling you, it's that episode from The Simpsons.
I mean, I can see it. Like, I
Yeah.
can see it being telegraphed eventually, but I think they're going to work together.
Yeah, when May eventually tells her that they're going to get cornered at some point during this fight with the Jedi, and she's going to tell her that the Jedi are the ones that killed all the witches. And then that's when she'll turn.
And so do you think we're going to get... Is this going to be like not Memento, but is this going to be like episode 6 is going to show Soul's story of like what happened and what happened? Like, are they going to show each little snippet and go back to this flashback and
Yes.
retell it from every different angle?
I think they are.
So you get an idea of where they're at and
Right.
where they're coming from and the motivations for each of the individual characters.
Everyone is kind of true from a certain point of view.
Right.
And if you put them all together, they make one bigger picture. Yeah.
Do you remember that movie where someone got assassinated and
JFK?
No, but they went to each different person's point of view. Like the movie was broken down into segments, and it was like this lady was standing here, and what did she see, and how did she see it? So it kept redoing the assassination over and over again, but it was from these people's point of view, like the person on the stage, the person passing by. This could go this direction. With this.
There was also a TV show that was produced maybe 5 years ago for Showtime. It was called The Affair. I know it has nothing to do with this, but basically what it was The Affair was, this is the guy who had the affair and his side of the story, and then this is the way that, like, for like 20 minutes of the show, and then it flips over for the remainder 20 minutes. It's the exact same story, but from the wife's point of view. Wow. So like in one point of view, she's like, it's her point of view, so she's wearing like these really conservative clothes, and is his point of view, she's wearing like really tight fitting things. And so it's just kind of giving you different aspects of it. And if they do it right and they don't do a full episode like this and they just show you snippets of flashback,
yes.
I think it could work. If they continuously do a whole episode of the same story, it's going to get tiresome.
We're going to be tired.
Yeah.
I think that's what Alfie's like. Like, it's going to get tiresome.
Yeah. I also, I was ready to go right to Kelnaka's house in this one to start it off, because that's where they left it, right, on the last one. And instead of even going into that storyline, it was like, oh, back up. We'll tell you that story down the road. So I didn't know. Like I said, I've been staying away from it enough to where I just let it hit me and watch it. I did like the first 2 episodes better than this episode. But I still thought there were some good things in this episode. The chanting was some weird stuff right there. That was some weird stuff going on. Have we had that in other Star Wars shows or movies and I missed it? I know the Mandalorians did some like group.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, with the Exegol.
Pasadena, or
yeah.
No, I mean, it wasn't chanting in Pasadena.
Well, they were doing like a group dance.
In Exegol, they were doing, right?
Exegol, they were doing chanting.
Yeah, that was during the fight.
What are they called? The Phalanci, or I knew I would mess it up. I can't remember what exactly were, but they did some chant in the EU.
What book are we talking from the EU?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to spend some time looking it up, but I can vaguely remember that.
I remember the Killiks, who were like a mind hive, or a hive mind, or whatever. Hind mind hive.
One.
The
power
of two.
The power
You
of
know they
many.
released that as a single today on iTunes.
Okay.
Here's the deal: somebody's buying it. I don't think the three of us are. I don't think the three of us are, but there is somebody that's buying it.
The Philanacy, they were in. Oh, it's not going to tell me right away.
I'll believe you on it.
I'm not arguing with you.
I
was just curious what book it came from.
I was glad to see that we got
the Black Fleet Crisis.
Yeah, Black
So
Fleet
was
Crisis.
that the original?
It's written by McDowell, I believe, was the author. Cube McDowell or something like that.
Wasn't that the Force cult that came to Luke Skywalker and said that they knew who his mother was?
I'll have to look that one up. I've read a lot of books. I didn't want any spice cream. I don't because isn't spice drugs? I mean, aren't death sticks made out of spice? I mean, wasn't
are death sticks made out of spice?
Poe Dameron and Han Solo were both
spice runners.
Yeah, right? Runners. So we get spice cream, man. That's like the 60s right there. We're having some hippie stuff going on. Man, dude, getting some spice cream. Yeah.
I mean, okay, we went to Tashi Station to get power converters. I mean, like, you're right.
Death sticks were made from mushrooms. Even better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so if you're like, you're not wrong, right? There's goofy stuff, and while I enjoy it, I'm entertained, right? Like, my bottom line is I'm entertained, and Alfie has made the point, and I've heard a couple other people online make the point that they feel like it looks like the CW or the WB, or
it looks awful.
It looks like a teenage drama. It looks like One Tree Hill.
I can see that.
So everything looks like a movie set. It looks like a movie set.
Right. It doesn't look like it's actually like the place. It looks like you can tell that this is a set. You can't, like, it's not like I'm being immersed into this village. It feels like you're on a set. And I don't have an argument to that because I believe that's a valid criticism, right?
I agree, because Andor, for the slower pace, Andor looked like a movie. Right, the scenery of the town, of the everything involved with Andor looked very much more like an in-depth movie.
And I can definitely support Alfie's position on that. Like, it makes sense, and I can see that it looks that way. And then I think your position from that, Joe, is like you just don't want Star Wars to get the Star Trek treatment, and it's kind of falling in that Star Trek treatment. And it's starting to move to that level, and I think that's where some of the I don't know, some people's criticism is coming from, and I think that's has merit, and I'll listen to that. But it's entertaining me. What I was gonna go to, but it's entertaining me, right? So at the bottom line for me, I'm intrigued by the story, even, and I know it's gonna get tiresome if that's gonna be the way that they're gonna do this show. So basically, it's gonna be 8 episodes of the same 25 minutes. That's going to be annoying.
I am really liking the story. I really, really like the story. Yeah. But the visuals, the acting is just so bad. It's not interesting to me at all.
Personally, the acting to me, like, I don't see that. Like, I had no problem with the acting in this one.
To me, it feels like every character is reading off of a cue card. It's just the dialogue. I know bad acting and bad dialogue is a staple of Star Wars, but this is like taking it to a different degree.
The girls, I felt like, was a little hard. The girls was a little hard as far as their acting. A lot of what they did was a little too fast to make it seem plausible. Like, they didn't seem like they were having that internal fight. They didn't seem like they were being siblings. That I can agree with. I like that one to me, but I believe the mom. I had no problem with the mom's acting. I believe the angry Zabrak-ish looking lady.
Coral.
I believed her. I had no problem with her acting. I was able to buy those characters. The kids, yeah, I feel like that was a little rushed just to try to illustrate the point that they were different.
So
outside of Saul and Kimry, to me, it's just bad.
Emery, is that the Ariane Moss?
The apothecary guy.
The guy who made the poison for
the really creepy dude?
Yeah.
You look just like her.
Hey, real quick before I forget, and I meant to do this earlier. I want to send a shout out. In the past, we send a shout out to Cara Doom 69 on YouTube. I'm going to send out a shout out to Papa Palpatine 47 on YouTube. Papa Palpatine, every day I get a comment, and he's gone back, or he or she, I apologize. It's just Papa Palpatine, so I'm assuming it's a gentleman. He has been watching all of our old YouTubes and catching up and watching new. He's got great comments on all of them. So Papa Palpatine 47, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Jump in the chat, my friend, if you're watching, unless you catch us later, which I get.
Yeah.
Not everybody can catch us live.
But it's just awesome. I mean, every day I look on it on YouTube, boom, got a message from, and it's like great. So I will say on the one part that really kind of irked me. Really, I mean, okay, the chant irked me, but that's okay. The part that irked me was when the mom was showing them the power of 1 and the power of 2 and how she could battle these other people pulling the thread. The girls were slap happy fighting behind her, and I was like, she's showing you a lesson. Pay attention.
Have
right?
you ever been a teacher?
Welcome. I have.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
But I mean, I just think
it was bad. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You have plenty examples of really good child actors in television right now who have carried roles and who have fought with each other just like siblings, and it seemed a lot realer, a lot more believable. It did not come across very well at all for me.
So
took me right out of the scene. Because, and then how do the 30 witches standing there watching them not see it? And nobody stops them.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I understand children fight.
I
have children of my own. They fight all the time.
Mother Coral wanted to she wanted to backhand them right there. She was ready to put her foot down. Because she is the enforcer right there.
So there's some things that, okay, I'm trying to figure out and put words into what I was going to like. I will start off by saying it was not good. Okay. I'm not like it was an awful depiction. Part of the reason why I said a lot of that was forced and a lot of that was silly. I don't like the way that they fought. I get the point that you're trying to illustrate that they're different people. The way that they did it, I didn't like. But I don't know how many times kids are kids and you try to teach them something and they're doing that stupid crap all the time. The other piece is the mom is talking. The rest of the witches have a level of respect for her and weren't going to step in and step on her toes. So this is coming from my experience as the educator. As soon as you step in as a teacher, okay, there's a teacher in the class and there's a kid that's acting the fool. The minute an outsider comes in and tells that kid to stop acting a fool, you have just removed all of the authority from that teacher. If somebody else has to discipline the person that you're trying to teach, then those kids will look at you and say, you have no power and that you can't discipline me. So for any of those other witches to step in, this is just coming from my world. I'm putting my realistic experience into it, which is why some of it I don't have a problem with. Again, I've started off by saying I thought it was silly as well.
I get you. I appreciate the real world kind of look at it.
So to me, the reason why the witches didn't say anything is because they were more fearful of the mom's reprisal back to them, as well as she's the ultimate authority to them, so she's not going to do anything unless they say it's okay.
Okay, I gotcha. So let's talk about the almost end where everything went down and May went psycho crazy, torched the place up, told her sister at 8 years old that she'd kill her. What are we left hanging with here? Was it May that took everybody out? Was it the Jedi that took everybody out? Was it a mass suicide? Is there anything you're leaning towards in this, or was there something completely different that you feel like maybe occurred to where all the witches were supposedly dead in that scene where Soul took Osha and took off? Any thoughts? Okay, no thoughts.
I think
No,
it'll be whoever this Sith Master is. He influenced it all. He was the one who sold them all their guns and weapons, and they didn't know that they were being influenced by him.
Did they have weapons? Oh, they did have
They
weapons.
did have weapons. They had bows and they had staffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
She told them to put them away when they came.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know.
I think he's going to have something to do with the creation of the children, and that he's been sitting there biding his time, waiting on them. That would be my fun theory. I think that the Jedi probably saw or felt what was going down. They show up. The witches use their powers on the Wookiee. He goes crazy. Big fight ensues, and all the witches get killed. The Jedi cover it up, and then they spend the next 15 years feeling guilty about it, and then we're back to the present day.
Why did she take over Tobin and not? So if you're saying like make the Wookiee go crazy, why did she take over Tobin?
That was just a demonstration of her power.
He was the Padawan.
She could do it. Like, hey, I can do this. Do you want me to stop? Now you push me, and I'm actually going to do it.
You also noticed that his eyes went black, just like Maze did
Right.
from the episode 1 or 2, whichever one earlier episode.
And then when we were back on the ship at the end of the episode, his face was all messed up.
Yeah, I saw somebody put a screen grab on social media. I didn't pick up on that during watching it.
So his face was messed up.
Right.
They left.
Right. So there was like a scar on his face.
Mm-hmm. And in the trailer, you can see the Wookiee fighting Torben,
and Tobin,
and then Torben and Soul.
Say that again. In the trailer, you can see
scenes of him fighting Torben, and then you can see scenes of him like with this. I don't know. Wookiees have claws, hands. What do you call them?
Yeah, I know that there's like a claw underneath it, so they can climb up the trees.
So you can see it like covering his face, and like his eye is poking out between his two fingers. And you can see
Torben's eye.
Yeah. You can see the blood on his face. Then you see there's other scenes of him fighting Master Saul.
So do you think they controlled Torben there for a second? Then I feel like, and this is where I'm coming from, is that I think that she found the weakest one through her understanding of the Force. She could feel the weakest one, and that's the one that she could control. So I feel like that she's going to take over Torben if she does any of that. I think she
takes over the Wookiee because would be the strongest. The brute force.
I get you is physically strong, but like I'm going mentally, like, right. So I think it's easier to get into Torben.
It's going to be interesting to see. I
hope so.
We'll keep giving it a shot. I mean, wow.
I mean, so my take on it, and I honestly don't know, and that's why I want it to play out. I don't want the Wookiee to have a problem, but I know that the Wookiee probably will have a problem.
That's why he's in solitude.
Right. I mean, which is why they all kind of basically had their own situations, right? Saul and Carrie-Anne Moss's character were the only ones that kind of were still Jedi-ish.
Yeah.
Torben was in hiding, and yeah.
So it looks like the witches played with the minds of those two, didn't play with Indara or Saul. They let them play out, and that's why they still were part of the Jedi, realm or the structure of the Jedi later on. While Torben was basically just in meditation, and Kelnaka is off in solitude. Yes, no, yes, okay. I don't know, guys. Honestly, this is, you feel like, oh, okay, this happened, that happened. Oh, this must have been what caused it. But now here we are 3 episodes in, and I'm open to any of these things transpiring, but I kind of want to see it come to fruition a little bit. So,
and I mean, I'll go with what Lori said when you sent us in a text message. It was weird. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it wasn't, right? But I'm also going to back that up by saying I'm intrigued. We're asking questions. There are, even though, like I said, Alfie, there are questions that he's asking, even though I want to see more.
Right.
But I also think that, just like the prequels led up to saying that the Jedi had issues, right? I think this is saying that the High Republic is showing how Jedi aren't as, I don't know.
Well, I'll go back to it. Every time when I think about the Jedi, I think about the movie Angels and Demons, or the book Angels and Demons. And when Robert Langdon is meeting with the right-hand man to the Pope at the end of that movie book.
Spoilers.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, too bad. Spoiler alert.
We're talking almost 20 years, I feel like.
But the cardinal tells him the church is flawed, but that's because man is flawed, right? Yeah. The Jedi are flawed.
This is coming from the cardinal that was committing all the murders.
No.
It's like what Jack Nicholson said in The Departed. You can either be a cop or you can be a criminal, but when you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference?
Yes. I mean, I still envision in my head the Jedi being the cowboys with the white hats coming in to save the day. But let's face it, even in that situation, there's always one that's like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot some people just for fun.
I'm gonna go back to the Martez sisters and talking about that one, bringing that one back up because no one likes them, but at the same time, the
Didn't
Jedi
need to be 4 episodes.
No,
There's
this is
nothing wrong with them.
The story could have been told in 2. You're correct.
The Martez sisters have their distaste and their displeasure with the Jedi.
Yeah, because they're running drugs. Drug dealers don't like police. We all know that.
Because the Jedi came in on their high horse, thought they were doing something,
and they
tried to protect, and because of the Jedi's influence, the parents were killed. So from their perspective, it was the Jedi's fault that they lost their parents. Has nothing to do. They became drug runners because they needed money and they needed to run and they didn't have parents anymore. But
they had a repair shop. They were fixing droids and ships, but smuggling drugs on the side.
Right.
What's the line?
You gotta get the big score.
What's the line from A New Hope? Obi-Wan says to Luke, "For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi were what?
Keepers of peace,
protectors and keepers of peace." I mean,
before the dark times, before the Empire.
That's the way I'm going to keep it in my head, and yeah.
They're an easy target to constantly make be flawed.
But at the same time, that's the point.
Because they're not interesting unless they're flawed.
No one's interesting unless they're flawed.
It's like all the superhero movies, right? Come on.
You have to have a tragic flaw.
Yeah,
we have to have a Rudy Superman now.
I mean, but you have James Bond, man. The evil villain always tells James Bond his plan right before he thinks he's gonna kill him.
You sly dog, you caught me monologuing.
So they're Inhumans are not interesting unless there's a flaw that's noticeable.
Oh man, I must not be interesting at all.
Uh-huh.
Well, these Jedi need to be way more flawed then because they're not interesting. And I think that's one of my biggest problems with the show is it hasn't given me a reason to care about any of the characters yet.
Yeah.
I really could care less about any of their stories. And I know that sounds bad. I know I sound disgruntled, and you can say whatever you want about me, but it just I just don't like the show. To me, this episode was possibly the worst bit of Star Wars live action I've ever seen. I mean, it's right there with the Ewok movies. For me, I can be honest and tell you that I will never watch this again.
Ooh. I can at least watch it. I've watched it a couple times. I can at least watch it.
That 40-minute episode felt like 2 hours.
I can't get through I can't get through 15 minutes of the Ewok movies.
Oh man. Come
this
on,
is
Sindel.
right there with them.
Come on.
Speaking of, I can't get through 15 minutes of Dune 2. Every 15 minutes I want to fall asleep.
It's that French horn blaring the whole time.
God, it's so slow and dull.
A lot of sand.
It gets everywhere.
Anakin would hate this movie. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. I think we've wrapped up this 42-minute episode of The Acolyte. We have another one next week. So we'll see where this goes. What is it? 8 episodes total, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we're 3 of 5 or 3 of 8.
Next week's halfway point. You get finished next week. We're halfway through this bad dude.
And then what do we got? Another couple months until Skeleton? Because isn't that like December-ish?
I have no idea.
As of now, it doesn't have a firm date. They're just saying holidays,
right?
What holiday? High holiday?
Life Day?
Boxing Day.
Boxing Day.
Canadian or English? Because if you look at the calendars, they're different.
That's weird. King's birthday could be the King's birthday, which of course they celebrate.
It's a different day, and it used to be the Queen's birthday was in May.
Yeah, and now they don't even celebrate. And it's just a random day now. So
it's not a random day. It's the King's birthday.
It's not his actual birthday though.
It's
just a set day they've made for the King's birthday. But then he has a birthday later on, some other part. Yeah, it's on February 29th. All right. Anything you guys want to wrap? That's right. Anything you guys want to wrap up here real quick? Alfie, anything? Covered everything we were going to talk about, or you got something else?
I'm super negative, but I really hope that there's a good episode, and I have to eat my words. I say that about every Star Wars project that I don't like, but...
I mean, you said that about Bad Batch several times, and I think you said that about Andor.
Yeah.
Okay.
This show is making me miss Andor.
That's the whole point of the episode. I mean, that's the whole point of the series, isn't it? Like to get you to come bring you back to the Andor.
Okay, Brent, how about you?
Completely different side note. I just remembered this. Paramount. If you have ever, if you own Paramount or if you watch the streaming service, there is a show called Lioness. It is a CIA. Female, they embed female CIA agents in next to other women.
Yes.
And it is 10 episodes long, and I showed it to my wife, and she finished it in 2 days. It is very entertaining. It is very intriguing. It's got a lot of
nudity.
No, not much.
I'm out.
I know, but it's got shoot 'em up though. Some quick reaction force shoot 'em ups.
Okay.
You were nodding your head. Have you ever heard of it? Lioness.
I have.
It's fantastic.
Yep. I will talk my wife into it because we are finishing up some other streaming shows and need to find the next one. So
and the After Dark episodes shall begin. I don't know if they will begin or not, but the Rule the Galaxy of the Westeros might be coming back again because House of the Dragon 2.0 starts Sunday. So I'm taking some time this weekend and getting myself reacquainted with Westeros and the current Targaryen family dramas that are going on.
Awesome. Well, we don't have any set guests over the next few weeks, but we have some that I'm working on. We'll put together some schedules on that. So we'll make those announcements soon. Again, I can't thank Kelly Knox and Clayton Sandell for coming on earlier. Really enjoyed our time with them, and they're just fun and entertaining people. Look forward to their Phantom Menace book in 2025.
Is that our first Emmy winner? Emmy winner?
Oh gosh, possibly Emmy winner, Clayton Sandell. That's crazy.
Do
What
we
are
need
we
to put
doing
that in
here?
the header?
I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I will say that again, Italian Fest this week in Indianapolis area. Come see Joe. You get a Rule of the Galaxy sticker if you come see me there. Next weekend, Chicago Cubs Sunday night. Ryan Sandberg statue reveal at the game. It's a Ryan Sandberg game. They're putting up a statue. If you're in the greater Chicago area, you know what I look like from YouTube. Come track me down. I'll get you a Rule of the Galaxy sticker there. Yeah, and that's where we're going with this. Other than that, it was just my birthday, but I'm so ready for June to be over with because it's so hectic of a month, and I'm ready to get into July. So that's all I've got. Episode 270 of Rule of the Galaxy. Brent and Alfie, always here for me. D-Doc, and living it up out in LA. We'll hopefully have him back next week. But until then, as Steve Glosson loves, may the Force be with you.